Hello, it feels like I haven't vlogged in ages. So much stuff has happened. Can't believe 1 month of summer is already over. We are going to Tokyo. I'm kind of really excited, but only kind of, because I don't know, I don't get that thrill yet. We're going from June 24th to 29th, and we got off the plane with empty stomachs, craving any Japanese food that was there. After browsing through the restaurants that were at the airport, we set our minds on a ramen place which required us to queue up for about 20 minutes but felt like forever. I ended up ordering ramen with soft-boiled egg and dumplings, which fully satisfied my taste buds and my stomach, and I was ready to get to the hotel. We started our journey by taking the JR, which was the metro in Tokyo, heading to Shibuya, the city center known to be most popular for its stores and malls. Navigating our way through the metro, I felt the busyness of this city where people were rushing to get from one point to another. As for dinner, we settled on a grilled seafood restaurant. First grilled rice ball of the trip. And vegetables. 여기서 Oh wait, it's hard. There's a lot of things going on. Oh, this is good. Where are we going next? We're going to this restaurant.
플랫폼에서 출발합니다.
The next day, we were headed to Itsu, near an hour train ride from Tokyo. Our spirits high up, we took the Shinkansen to Atami Station, during which I had a salmon rice ball I picked up in a convenience store. We stopped by Atami where there was a street filled with stalls that sold fresh seafood, snacks, and so much more.
I tried fresh kumquat juice, which was so refreshing and much needed under the heat. In the end, our whole family decided to stop and recharge by having lunch at a noodles place before we continued with our journey ahead.
Great. Amazing view. On this day, we'd planned to go to Mount Amuro to visit the site where the anime Your Name was inspired by. So after we took a stroll along the beach, we took an hour-long taxi ride. Looking out the window, I felt the vast difference between Itsu and Tokyo. I sensed a much slower and rural living, where there was a lot more nature. The buildings were much shorter, and all the skyscrapers of Tokyo were absent here. I told myself it was a place like this that I would want to retire in. When we got to Mount Amuro, we were greatly disappointed that the cable cars were closed because the weather was too windy. So we didn't get to go up to the mountain and ultimately rode another 10 minutes to Itsu Teddy Bear Museum. Upon leaving the museum, we walked towards the train station, beginning our return journey back to Shinagawa, admiring the scenery on the way. Before we arrived at the station, we made a quick stop by Nagaya Supermarket. And since the train ride back to Tokyo was too long, we decided to stop halfway to grab some dinner at a rice bowl place, which I completely forgot the name of. After that, with our stomachs filled, we picked up where we left off. Something I noticed in Tokyo during this trip is that the city emptied really early in the evening. By 7:30, we were the only ones in the Atami station. It almost felt like a dead city, reinforcing the scenes I had seen in Alice in Borderland previously. I was really surprised because I thought Tokyo would have a lot of nightlife and so much more happening even after the sun had gone down. Even as I was accompanied by my family, I felt a sense of loneliness and vacancy situated in such a metropolitan city with no one on the streets at all. On our third day, we decided to visit Akihabara, a tourist spot we went in winter 5 years ago. And oh my gosh, I was so different back then. I took this 5 years ago with my iPhone 6, and now look how the stores are still the same. Anyway, we wanted to find the place where we had been to, dropping by malls to shop through and walking through tunnels to navigate our way around. It took a long time, and to be honest, I don't actually know if we found it in the end. Because this time we went, it was summer, which meant there were no yellow leaves for any recognition whatsoever. As for lunch, we went to this famous ramen restaurant I had seen numerous recommendations of online. It was so popular that we had to queue up for around 25 minutes even though we arrived at the restaurant at 2 p.m., which I thought was past the peak lunchtime. My opinion of the ramen was a 9 out of 10 because thinking about it now still makes me crave it, but I have to say it was very oily. After a late lunch, we walked through the city aimlessly, during which we passed by a bookstore that was 10 stories high, I believe. So obviously I rushed to the English book section where I purchased a few books. For dinner, we returned to Akihabara and our indecisive minds decided on a shabu-shabu restaurant. On our last full day, we decided to go shopping in the department stores they have here in Tokyo, so we headed to Isetan in Shinjuku, only to be stopped by another department store where I got a few unnecessary items as well as some souvenirs. Oh, and here comes the best meal of the trip. On the top floor of the department store were a bunch of restaurants, and my sister and I both set our hearts on a soba and udon restaurant once we saw it. And needless to say, I picked a set with both soba and udon with tempura. It was so good, and I think that redeemed for all the disappointments I've had in the trip. We ended up arriving at the Matcha Tokyo at dinner time. It was one of the best matchas I've tasted in my life. We settled for dinner at a grilled fish place, and honestly, it was pretty good. Overall, I felt like this was the best day in terms of food. My Japanese food cravings were officially satisfied.
This woman is copying me.
The next morning, which was the last morning, we parted ways with our room, and honestly I was really grateful because it only started to rain the day we were leaving, which was perfect timing. We rushed to the airport and had a quick last lunch where I ordered a tempura soba set only to find out that they had also given me rice. As expected, the food from the airport was pretty mid, especially the sauce from the rice, which was a little too sweet and thick, as well as the outer layer of the tempura, which was also too thick. And then I decided to grab a last matcha before I got on the plane, only to be disappointed because it was probably the worst matcha I had ever tasted. Anyway, that was it. My 5-day summer Tokyo trip wrapped up. I was not always lucky with encountering new things and got myself disappointed a few times, but nonetheless, this trip was a really good bonding time with my family. See you next time, Tokyo!
仲有啲臭草。